okay.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! My allergies! My allergies! Ah! This is exactly what the people want you to think and want you to buy their products when you're in a field of goldenrod. But the goldenrod is not the enemy. Here I am. My nose is clear. My sinuses feel great. The goldenrod is my friend. Okay.
Good morning from Acorn Herbals. This is Deborah Holgren. This morning I'm looking at harvesting goldenrod, Solidago, one of my favorites. It grows freely on my land and on a lot of people's land actually. It is a plant that has been demonized as an allergy producer, and I will talk about that more later, but typically that is not what's causing people's allergies this time of year. It's usually ragweed, and ragweed grows in the same areas as goldenrod, and ragweed throws pollen earlier than goldenrod, but goldenrod doesn't actually throw pollen, but we'll talk about that later. It produces pollen like all flowering plants, but unlike ragweed, it hangs on to it and needs insects to pollinate it, but as I said, more later. The goldenrod that's here is getting lots of sun and is going by very quickly. This has flowered and finished flowering, and it's starting to seed up, a lot of it right here. And this is too late to gather it for medicine. We want to be gathering medicine with the plants that have made buds but have not fully opened or just barely started opening. So this one is going by. However, in the back, a little taller, are some plants that in fact are at the perfect stage for gathering, where they get a little closer, where they have budded up and some of the flowers have opened. And those are the ones that I'll gather today, the flowering tops. I'll take leaves and flowers from just the top stem of the plant, and I'll pick off anything that is brown or not perfect. All right, so I want to get a little close-up. That's not bad of the flowers. Goldenrod, Solidago, a member of the Aster family, one of the largest families of plants there is. Even though the little flowers are teeny, they still have all the petals that an aster has. There's not a bad look at it. Cool, cool. You can see with this plant, there's a lot of hairs on the stem. Many of the goldenrods have smooth stems. This particular one has a hairy stem, which sort of gives me a clue to its specific ID as a species. I'm going to go quickly double check on that, but I'm pretty sure this is rough stemmed. Still useful medicinally. They all are. We'll talk about how and why later. Can't stand it. It's so pretty in this morning light. It's just glowing. I know the video won't capture that in particular, but it's just happy as can be, and it's growing out here. A little wormwood as well, and a few other wonderful things. It's a wild thing, considered invasive in lots of areas. It certainly takes advantage, and it sends seed, it sends roots. It can be kind of a bully, but if you use it and move it where you want it, it's a great ally. I have a lot. It's just glowing this morning as well. Awfully nice. So I wanted to just share. I mentioned that Solidago is part of the Aster family. And then we have members of the Aster family that are just called Aster. So these are a wild aster, common white aster. I have them also all over the place. They're just stunning. We'll talk about these in a future video because these have medicinal value too, but unlike the goldenrod, the petals on this one are white. Goldenrod's petals are yellow. Still has that nice yellow center, but that's an aster, known as an aster. But many members of the Aster family have different common and botanical names, but they're still part of that big family. And just for fun, another member of the Aster family, a member of the coneflower group, and black-eyed Susan is part of that group, and that's also a member of the Aster family. So you can see petals around a central section, colors come in all different colors, although often yellows and whites. But there's another member of that family just for reference. So I wanted to take time during this video to take a look at ragweed, which is what's in front of us. It's bright. I don't know how well this is going to come out today, but I'm going to try to get a good shot of it. So ragweed is blooming in and around the same area as the goldenrod. So consequently, people often think that what they're experiencing is a goldenrod allergy, when in fact it is likely to be a ragweed allergy. Ragweed is very prolific. This time of year, I see it along all the roadsides in large quantity, and when ragweed sends its pollen, it's more like a powder that goes in the air, very, very fine powder. So as I harvest this goldenrod, I'm going to check it over and make sure the plants look pretty good in general, and these do. They're right at the point that I like to get them. Some of the flowers have opened, most of them have not. I'm literally going to cut. Let's see, there's my scissor. And so really it's just about 8 to 10 inches of the top of the plant. I'm going to cut this and I'll be right back. Alright, so here are some tops. They are, as I said, about 8 to 10 inches, maybe 12. I will strip the leaves and the flowers off the tops. I won't pull the little flowers. I'll cut that section and then chop up the rest of it, but I'll strip the leaves off the stem for the most part for making a tincture. You could do the same thing for making an oil. I'll talk more about the oil later, but if I'm making an alcohol-based tincture, I would use that fresh plant. That is also a good section of plant to cut if you're planning to dry the plant. Here is my gathered goldenrod, and I have begun the process of stripping the leaves off and cutting the tops off. I'm going to chop this up further before I put it in a jar and cover it with vodka. I'm going to use 100 proof vodka, 50% alcohol to preserve this. I'm going to pack my jar about 3/4 full and then cover it with the alcohol right at the top of the jar. And then I will, of course, keep an eye on it, shake it daily, and in 4 to 6 weeks, we should have a very usable tincture. I'll talk more about what it's good for at the end of the video. In the meantime, with any of these kind of plants, when you're stripping leaves off the stem, all you have to do is pull the leaves downward, and they just come right off the stem. I'm one-handed today, as my video guy isn't here. So I'm going to just stop for a second. I think that'll work. I'm going to move these out of the way. All I'm doing is pulling down towards the base of the plant, and the leaves strip right off. Could do that with some of the flowers, and the rest I'm going to chop up later. Most plants strip easily this way. Certainly herbs like mints and all those kind of plants definitely strip easily that way. Stripping them off, and then I'll chop later. When I see any leaves that don't look good, I pick them out of the pile. Okay, here is a finished bottle of goldenrod extract or tincture. This was made by cutting up into small pieces the goldenrod tops, leaves that were stripped from the stems and flowers. I used scissors just to cut them into much smaller pieces. And then I filled my jar, packed my jar really, 3/4 full. I pushed it down, mostly 3/4 full, and then I added my alcohol. I believe 100 proof vodka, 50% alcohol, 50% water will work fine if it sits on the shelf for 6 weeks. Some people use a higher level of alcohol and macerate it or chop it up in the blender much smaller, and it might be ready even sooner, but I don't need it ready sooner. 6 weeks is good for me. So this will sit on my shelf, and then I will strain the liquid, preserve it, and compost the leftover plant parts. Isn't that pretty? You can see the flowers floating in there. So, goldenrods, many virtues. Typically, it's the aerial parts used with goldenrod. Dried, it makes teas, washes. Potentially the dried plant can also be used for tinctures later on. It can be made into fresh tincture with the aerial parts being the upper leaves and flowers.
Goldenrod is anti-catarrhal. Catarrh is mucus, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, astringent, diaphoretic, carminative, and diuretic. It could be used if somebody is very mucousy in the upper respiratory system, along with other herbs to help break up that mucus and help it thin. It is something that I have seen recommended for use in allergies to try to basically mediate the excessive histamine reaction of allergies. I've seen it used for cat allergies, and potentially for also helping people with ragweed allergies, the very allergen that's bugging people when they see the goldenrod. It has a history of use in helping with the urinary tract system and urinary infections, cystitis, urethritis. Given its antimicrobial properties, its antibacterial properties, I definitely would use it as a wound wash. If somebody had an icky wound of some kind that needed to be rinsed out, I would make a tea, cool it off, and rinse that area with the goldenrod. And there's many, many uses. You need to spend time researching if you're thinking about using it yourself. I will definitely have it on hand in both tea and tincture form for the cold and flu season, maybe help with some of the symptoms of COVID. It's a backup, but the thing about it is it's a native and it's here for us to use. So why would we not use it? But get your information from good sources. This video is simply meant to be introductory. Thank you. Enjoy the goldenrod.